Hi everyone, my name is Elbevis, and today we will be talking about the book called Flowers for Algernon, which was written by Daniel Keyes. Flowers for Algernon is the story of a 32-year-old man named Charlie Gordon, who is mentally handicapped and has an IQ of 68. The book is written in first person through Charlie's journal entries and progress reports, and has many different underlying messages that Daniel Keyes attempts to get across. At the beginning of the story, we learn that Charlie is the custodian and busboy at the local bakery in town, in which his uncle secured the job for him to avoid being sent to a state institution. Charlie attends reading and writing classes at Beekman College Center for Retarded Adults, but there's something special about these classes. This is because Miss Alice Kenyon is Charlie's teacher, whom Charlie has a young 5-year-old like crush on. Two doctors from the college Charlie attends have asked Miss Alice to help find an eligible student for a surgery that would increase their intelligence. Surprisingly, Miss Alice chooses Charlie, who has the lowest IQ of the whole class. So, Professor Niemer and Dr. Strauss lead the research team, and then prior to selecting an individual, tested on a mouse named Algernon. As the testing and pre-surgery begins, Charlie is asked to write just daily journal entries and perform basic tests. When reading Charlie's daily journal entries, we can see that by the lack of vocabulary and spelling errors, that Charlie has the intellectual capability of an 8 or a 9-year-old boy. The first test that Charlie is given is a basic ink test in which he fails and both becomes frustrated with himself and the research team. A second significant test is the maze, where Algernon and Charlie both compete to achieve the maze first. Then Charlie's surgery is a success, and eventually he beats Algernon in the maze. Over the course of 3 months, Charlie's IQ reaches to 185. Charlie becomes extremely intelligent, but his emotional state is not increasing at the same speed as his intelligence. Charlie's coworkers start to become resentful about his intelligence and attempt and succeed at getting him fired. He shares his love with Miss Alice, which causes a strain on their friendship relationship, and he also becomes frustrated with Dr. Namier, accusing him of only seeing him as a test subject, not as a human being with emotions and feelings. Eventually, Charlie becomes so intelligent that he is researching and studying his own procedure results and testing, as well as Algernon. He eventually comes to the conclusion that both him and Algernon will lose their intelligence slowly and it will decrease back to its original state. Charlie's results are proven correct, and Algernon ends up dying in the process. Soon afterwards, Charlie loses his intelligence and puts himself into housing at Beekman College. Throughout the story, we see 3 major conflicts, the first form being Charlie versus himself. Overall, the book is based upon Charlie's struggle with intellectual ability itself. Charlie struggles with the fact that his IQ holds him back in nearly every aspect of his life, whether his IQ is even considered normal or not. A second conflict we see is Charlie versus Professor Niemer, especially over the course of the book. We notice that Charlie struggles with whether Professor Niemer sees him as a human rather than a lab rat, and they also disagree over the evidence over the course of the project. The last example of conflict we see is Charlie versus society itself. Charlie struggles with fitting into the most basic structures of society. One example being the friendship Charlie lacks in his life, from the men at the bakery who make fun of him and holding a job at the bakery, to developing a relationship with Miss Alice and even his mother. A huge conflict overall that we see is the slow development of Charlie's emotional state versus the intellectual state, which causes the majority of the problems in the book. In Flowers for Algernon, the meaning arguably, or main theme, is man playing God. An obvious example of this theme is when a nurse tells Charlie soon after his surgery that if God would have wanted him to be smart, he would have made him smart. And throughout the book, there are significant symbols that also relate to this theme. First, the time frame of Charlie's journal entries span over 9 months, beginning March 3rd and ending November 21st. March is in spring, which is the season of growth and rebirth, whereas November is in autumn. It's the season that displays nature's decline but not death. And the obvious synonym for autumn is fall, which we see in Charlie's case. The 9 months represent, which is also used as a plot technique, but they represent the gestation period in which new life is developed and nurtured. But since the procedure was a failure, we realize that the attempt of man playing God failed, and there is no new individual created, only Charlie returning to his original self. And finally, the highlight of the book is when Charlie returns to his normal self. not particularly because anything happened or a specific event, but because the whole theme of the story and the meaning of the book is truly revealed. Thank you for listening to this crash course, and I hope you enjoyed it.